There's no doubt that there are many great teachers and that it is the most underpaid profession. But as a result of the limited resources given to our educators, there are certain realities about the profession that being aware of will give you a competitive advantage over your peers. This is Emara Academic Solutions. With 30 students in each class and a number of classes a day, busy teachers may never get to really know all of their students. This, combined with pressure to mitigate grade inflation, makes it easy for a student to get lost in the crowd's mediocrity. This is why I strongly advise being vigilant early on about your scores and missing points, to reinforce in your teacher's mind that you will not settle for being the 85% student by default, particularly in less quantitative assessments. I remember getting a 9 out of 10 on a simple global history homework assignment, where we were asked to answer the end of chapter questions. It really just meant scanning the chapter for the emboldened words that were always in the sentence that directly answered one of those questions. I knew I answered every question correctly. So after class, I asked my teacher why I got a 9 instead of a 10 out of 10. He said he would look at it, and the next day I got it back with the added 10%. The fact is that teachers can develop a preconceived notion of what type of student you are, and they don't always read 100% of everyone's assignments. Being vigilant about every point will trigger in your teacher's brain a more considerate approach to evaluating an assignment with your name on it. Every point counts, and I recommend using a third party to advocate on your behalf to avoid looking naggy. Being aware of your scores will drive home the point that you will not settle for being another way to flatten your teacher's bell curve. Just as the majority of students tend to fall into the anonymity under the bell curve, where there is a preconception of a mediocre grade, there is, for a select few students, the presumption of a high grade, or at least a more objective approach to grading each assignment. Taking parent-teacher conference seriously and coming prepared with questions like, up until this point in the term, where am I grade-wise, and what specifically accounts for these missing percentage points will put you among those few students. In a classroom with 20 to 30 students, it's not easy to stand out, but there are ways to rise above average grades. Use the presentation of your work to brand yourself as the interested, committed student. Start typing up all of your homework. Always choose a unique title and cover page for written assignments. I've spent half an hour cutting a couple of pieces of cardboard and taping them together to form the hardcover of a poetry project for English class. We did a quick unit on Shakespeare's Macbeth in high school, where the class was divided into small groups to perform sections of the play in front of the rest of the class. Even though we were allowed to read from the book, I spent an hour the night before and a half an hour on the train to school memorizing my lines. So while everyone read directly from the text, I had a group member turn down the lights while I lit a candle to blow out when I got to the line, "Out, out, brief candle." These are all very small investments with very large returns. And cutting cardboard while watching TV, printing something in color, making an otherwise boring class presentation humorous and memorable are all easy ways to be remembered as an exceptional student. Showing pride in your work will elevate your standing in the class, and on some level validates your teacher's efforts. It can even substitute for a degree of subpar content on this or future assignments. The best case scenario is that you are naturally interested in every aspect of the classes you're taking, and being an A student is just a byproduct of that. Realistically, that will never be the case, but you may find that by implementing some of these tips and really applying yourself, you'll begin to love watching your scores improve as evidence of your strategic efforts. Leverage that in which you have a comparative advantage. Let's say you're not the best math student, but you're much more comfortable in English class. Try to capitalize on your strengths in one class to support your efforts in another. So when that gung-ho girl in your math class gets to the board before you, when your teacher asks someone to explain how to solve a problem and merely writes down a number, I would say something like, "I think what she's trying to say is," and then give a brief explanation. This benefits my peers because I clarified why that was the correct solution in terms everyone could understand. It was good for me in that it demonstrates a command of the subject matter indicative of being able to put it into my own words, as well as because it undercut my classmates' math skills with my communication skills. And I can tell that it resonated with the teacher, especially when she uses language like, Could you repeat that last thing you said for the class? Another example of enhancing your performance in one subject with the skills of another is a student who is not at ease writing poetry, but is a distinguished artist. In this case, illustrating your poetry for English class could be a good idea for hedging your grade. Always use what you have an aptitude for to gain a competitive advantage.